Hey everyone, David Coe, the Coe Real Estate Group. One of the trends that we've been seeing in the real estate market, especially here in Southern California, have been parents stepping in to help their children buy their first home. And this isn't something that's just happening here, it's happening all around the country. So in today's video, we're going to kind of unpack that a little bit, what that looks like, what are some of the considerations, and what are some of the risks that you need to consider if you're either on the parent or the child side of this equation. So first of all, there has been increased support. I know in our own personal business, I would say close to 50% of all of the transactions we've been doing, somehow, some way, there's been a parent that has been helping along the way in the transaction. And in a recent article in Realtor.com, for first-time home buyers, the national stat is 38% of all first-time home buyer transactions has had some kind of parental support in it. As you all know, interest rates are high, prices are high, and affordability is just really, really low. And it's hard for first-time home buyers to get their foot in the door of the real estate market, where conversely, a lot of baby boomers and even people in their 50s and 60s that have been investing in real estate, owning real estate that they bought 30, 40 years ago have built up so much equity. One stat I saw was close to $84 trillion of real estate that baby boomers own right now. And they're looking at transferring that wealth to their children to help them get started on the home buying path. It does foster independence, letting a young family kind of breaking out of the rental mode and into the home ownership mode, sets them on a path for some better financial security. But you've got to be really informed when you're making decisions about this. There are multiple options. We're going to cover some of them today, and understanding the risk and the pros and cons of each is really important if this is something that you think would make sense for your family. So again, so many kids are struggling to find affordable homes all over the country, but especially here in Southern California. And it's not that rents have plummeted either. Rents are growing even faster right now than home prices are, just because there are so many people trapped in the rental market. And here in Southern California, we also have, a very low supply, which is forcing rents to go up. So parents stepping in, it was kind of, a natural evolution of where the market was going to go. And we are absolutely seeing that today in our current real estate market. So there are four primary ways in which parents are helping. So number one is a gifted down payment. This is literally just giving someone cash to help on their down payment. Number two is co-signing, right? So literally buying the home together and signing on the loan together. Number three is assist gifting or sale. So maybe transferring stocks or transferring a piece of property, to a younger generation. And then the fourth one is just making a loan. And some of them can be forgivable. Some of them could be a second mortgage behind it first. But we're going to unpack each of these a little bit in these next few slides here. So first thing on gifted deposits and down payments. You are allowed to give a gift to a child. And I think in 2025, it's about $19,000 per child where you can give a gift to them that they can use for down payment assistance. It is possible to give larger gifts, but I'm not a tax professional. We absolutely recommend you check with yours. That gets into estate planning and some nuance that is above my pay grade as a realtor, but it is possible. But you do have to make sure that you've got proper documentation that it is, if you are intending it to be a gift, that it is documented as a gift and not a loan. The second and probably the most common that I've seen is the co-signing and co-borrowing. What this does is gives a shared responsibility. So both parents and children or parent and child will actually go on the deed and own, everyone will own their fair share of the property based on however the money goes into the transaction. And the same thing on the loan, right? And what you might be able to do is where a child may not have the credit score or just the amount of income to qualify for that loan, by bringing the parents into the transaction, you're able to afford a much larger piece of property. There are some great benefits for that. Again, maybe someone who could only afford to spend, let's say, $400,000 for a home here in Southern California, which might get you a one-bedroom condo somewhere in our great city. Maybe now they can afford up to $1 million and have some kind of shared responsibility financially and also legally with their parents. Now, this does come with some risk, right? So as a parent, you are trusting your child to make those payments. And for some reason, if they don't and the bank has to foreclose, well, that could negatively affect you on your record. And more importantly, if you don't want that to happen and you do assume those payments, it could put a financial strain on whatever situation you're dealing with. Some alternative strategies here are home equity options. By the last estimates that I've seen in the United States, we have almost 37 trillion, yes, trillion with a T, in home equity in real estate in the United States of America. So is it possible to borrow against that? And yes, rates are high right now, but if you're borrowing a smaller chunk of money against a property that you may own outright and using that as a way to help your child out, especially if there's some kind of short-term arrangement on that, maybe you're doing that just until rates come down and your child can then refi and pay off that, help you pay off that loan. That's an option that we've seen quite frequently. There are legal structures that you should consider. Probably the one that's most common is called a shared equity agreement. And that is where parent and child will go in, draft an agreement, and have a clear set of responsibilities. What percentage of ownership? What happens upon sale? What happens if there's maintenance cost? Who's going to pay the loan? Who's going to pay the taxes? Any type of financial arrangement. One of the values or benefits of having this shared equity agreement is that if there is a question on what to do, by having everything agreed upon up front when everyone is happy and cooperating, could prevent having some kind of negative repercussion down the line if there's some kind of conflict. And then there's a blended approach, right? There's, maybe of all these strategies that we present today, maybe there's a little of this. Maybe you could give a small gift and also help with some kind of down payment assistance or some kind of shared ownership type of arrangement as well. So some key considerations and risk. Again, from a parent side, you have to really consider your retirement impact. This could be something that is a part of your retirement plans and part of your wealth preservation plans, perhaps money you planned on leaving your children anyway, a way to help give them those funds earlier before you pass away so they can enjoy it at a younger age. Absolutely recommend you talk to your financial and or tax advisors about that. There are tax implications. And again, I'm a realtor, not a tax professional. Please talk to your tax professional. And if you need one, let me know. I would love to refer you some really good people. And this could put a strain on the relationship that you have with your children. So, the best way to prevent some kind of relationship strain down the line is making sure that you do a really strong, solid agreement up front where you discuss what are some of the possibilities that could happen while you own the property and predetermining how you want to solve them. And then it's just a matter of everyone living up to the terms of the agreement. And then, doing some long-term planning on the trust and estate side of things. Again, this could have some advantages versus waiting until you pass away before your children inherit your estate. So here's some successful tips. Be open, be honest. When you talk about what are some of the ramifications as a child, what happens if you lose your job and you can't afford to pay the rent? How are you going to handle that? What happens if all of a sudden there's a major repair and you don't have the financial ability to handle that repair? Be honest, and again, do it up front while everyone is still happy in an agreement before waiting for that situation to arise and then trying to figure out how you're going to solve it. And as much as you can get down in writing, the better. It just makes everything, make sure that everyone has the proper and the same understanding up front. Attorneys are great at helping to document this, or at least go to the law firm of ChatGPT and make sure that you've got something that both parties agree to and you sign in advance. please check with your financial and legal advisors and just make sure that you're looking at all kinds of future changes and contingencies. That might be something where us as a real estate professional can help, just because we've seen what happens over the home ownership process over the years and can advise you on maybe some scenarios that you should have some pre-planning on before you actually close on that escrow. So in conclusion, there are a lot of advantages, and a lot of people are helping their children buy their first home. Make sure you look at all these app options thoroughly, evaluate which one works best for your situation, engage in the proper professionals to make sure you're doing it properly and correctly, and then, be thoughtful about it. Make sure that as you're doing this, you don't jeopardize a relationship with your children or with your parents, and that this ends up being something that's financially and emotionally valuable for both of you. So I hope this information was helpful. If it is, please feel free to click like and subscribe to our YouTube channel down below for more kinds of information like this. And as always, if you have any questions about how this may impact your situation, please reach out to myself or someone from the team. If it is a question that is a legal or a tax question, we're more than willing to refer you to the appropriate professionals to help get you the answers you need. David Coe with the Coe Real Estate Group. I hope you found this informative, and I hope to talk to you soon.